Capitol Report is a production of Senate Media Services.
This week, Governor Walz lays out his vision for the state's next budget, and the GOP responds. A key lawmaker makes yet another push for veterans' restorative justice programs across the state, and we introduce you to a new senator. Stay tuned for this week's Capitol Report. Welcome to this week's program. I'm Shannon Loehrke. Governor Tim Walz unveiled his budget proposal for the coming biennium, referring to it as Minnesota's COVID-19 recovery budget. The $52.4 billion plan focuses on aiding families, small businesses, and students in recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. To plug the projected $1.3 billion budget hole from the November forecast, the plan would transfer $1 billion from Minnesota's budget reserve. In addition, the plan would increase taxes for the top 0.7% of Minnesotans, levy additional taxes on capital gains, raise the corporate tax rate, and increase taxes on tobacco products. On the spending side, the governor's plan calls for an increase of 1% next year and 2.5% the following year in the K-12 education funding formula. Additionally, funds would be directed to helping students recover from the pandemic through summer programs, mental health support, and tutoring. The Walz plan also seeks to expand the working family credit and provide paid family medical leave. There are a number of economic recovery plans proposed, including $50 million in new small business COVID-related forgivable loans. Here's some of what the governor had to say.
The bulk of what we're asking to do is to invest in our children in education, making sure those investments for summer learning opportunities, and you can hear more about those, you heard some of those yesterday, are a big focus of what we're doing. We'll be expanding those summer programs, making sure we're prioritizing the entire well-being of students. Small business recovery we've already worked on. And this is not just in the short term, whether it be a forgivable loans that we're going to advocate for. Hopefully we see more out of the federal response. We're already starting to see this last COVID response bill and relief bill is making a difference, but making sure we're thinking about the future, things like angel tax credit. A few months ago, an article came out and talked about where the tech companies are going, and they said it's not Austin or Seattle, it's Minnesota was one of them. We have an ecosystem here that's thriving. We have great talent here, and we have a high quality of life. We can't jeopardize those by cutting to the bone the very things that make a difference. And then working families, making sure, and you're going to see this, our tax proposals will make sure that 1 million Minnesota families see a reduction in their tax rates and the impact that it makes on them, while also supporting their children in schools and while also supporting those services that folks need in a time of COVID-19. We're going to do this by sharing and focusing on the values that we care about. We know that when workers are supported, when children are supported, when quality of life is supported, it creates an economic environment where things thrive. And we're going to ask those that are most fortunate and those corporations that have profited during this time to pay a fair share to make sure that we can continue to provide the services we need. Most of those folks understand that very clearly because it's the workforce that they're going to need. It's their own children in schools. And so we think it makes sense, again, being very clear, and I know you'll hear this, that proposals around income tax are going to impact, as I said, 1 million Minnesotans will see as we expand the first tier. Well, 1 million Minnesota families will see cuts to their income tax. We're going to ask the top 0.7% to pay a little bit more, so 1% on the 1%.
Following Governor Walz's budget proposal, Senate and House Republican leaders voiced their concerns with the governor's plan.
One of the things that we said, and we will continue to say, is we're not going to raise taxes on anyone. And if you look at this budget that the governor's proposed, there's a lot of taxes on a lot of people. We think that we should be reducing spending all the way back to last April when we knew that COVID would bring an economic crisis to Minnesota. We said that the governor should be reducing spending 5% or some number per agency, like other states had did, but he chose not to do that.
The governor's budget, it's taken me a while to dissect this. It's a budget that is absolutely unsustainable. It leaves us $1.029 billion in the hole in the tails. It's full of shifts and gimmicks, And like I said, it's going to take a while to grasp what he is proposing here and the ramifications.
There isn't anyone in the world who would say that this budget represents good policy. It's going to make for good talking points for the governor, and we're going to jab him on it. And you know, this is a good starting point that will offer a place for us to contrast our ideas for a little bit. But at the end of the day, Republicans and Democrats need to come together, roll up our sleeves, and put in place a budget that will create the jobs and create the economic growth that will see our state recover from this pandemic.
A bill to put veterans with service-related injuries on a path to rehabilitation instead of incarceration is once again before the legislature. Military veterans and advocates recently provided testimony before a key Senate committee.
In 2015, I first came to Veterans Court for a marijuana violation. It was I had a 5th-degree possession of marijuana. So it was, I think about the lowest felony possession that you can have for marijuana. I was over the threshold of 48 grams or something like that in my home. And I had a choice of I could either go to jail for 3 years or I could go to Veterans Court. And at the time, there was the only thing that was advantageous for me about going to Veterans Court was that I wouldn't have to go to jail for 3 years for some marijuana. So at the time I went, and it hooked me up with the VA.
We come home, and when I did after 2 deployments, I had about a year before I went to law school. During that time, it was difficult to find a job. The recession was starting to kind of get a little better, but it was difficult. So for me to come into the society and come from a position where I was leading people as a squad leader to applying for jobs that, in my opinion, were well below what I was probably capable of doing was frustrating. Also, there's a tendency, I believe, across the board when you talk to infantrymen and combat arms men that are directly involved and engaged in combat, that you naturally don't have a lot of coping mechanisms when you get out of the military. I think the most frequent one and one that I used quite often was to drink alcohol.
I recognize from Mr. Miller's testimony that the loss, the frustration, those feelings of abandonment, not knowing what's going on. I don't remember 1983 because of my solution to my confusion and hurt was to be completely drunk and high or stoned.
The Hells Angels were founded by disaffected World War II veterans. We need to get these veterans with mental illnesses from service connection out of prisons where they can be recruited and radicalized, and instead into treatment to prevent the violence. This is a public safety issue.
Senator Roger Chamberlain is carrying a bill that would provide guidance to courts to establish restorative justice programs statewide, and I spoke with him this week. Your bill would provide guidance to courts to expand veterans' restorative justice programs throughout the state. What exactly do these programs do?
Well, they are designed to assist veterans who have suffered if they get accepted in the diversion program through the court process. The programs are existing, and the whole process, the whole idea behind this is to help veterans who have service-related disorders, disabilities, problems, to find a path back to a healthy path back to life and a normal life. They have been impacted by things out of their control. So our goal is to help them get back on the right path and happy, successful, prosperous life where they should be. It was no fault of their own that they may have suffered some trauma in the military that wasn't their fault.
And you're talking about PTSD or traumatic brain injuries or other things like that that are affecting their return to civilian life?
Right. Those sorts of traumas that, exactly, yes. In a nutshell, yes. There's some others, but yeah, that's it. That's the idea.
So 8 veterans courts already exist in Minnesota. Why is a bill necessary to expand the program, particularly if, areas of greater Minnesota aren't required to implement the program?
Well, mandates are a problem, but where we can find some area of approval, of agreement is good. This is a permissive policy. It just creates consistent standard guidelines for the courts throughout the state to follow and use. The federal government has a standard as well, and we've planned to reconcile some of those differences when we go to judiciary. But it's permissive set of common standards and goals for the courts and for the courts to follow, and that's kind of the idea.
Now, you've said that this bill will actually save taxpayers millions of dollars, and if veterans are accepted into the program, then the treatment is provided by the VA system. Is the VA network sufficient across the state of Minnesota to provide the services that these veterans would need?
I can't speak specifically for the VA, but the idea that the desire would be anywhere they could get the help, they could get the help. I would not envision someone from, Grand Forks having to go all the way to St. Cloud to get some sort of assistance. Every county has a veteran service officer that helps, bridge those gaps and manage those difficulties to a certain extent. So I guess I'm sorry, I couldn't remember the first part of your question, or if that was the total question. I think I can't speak for the VA. I don't know their capacity, but again, the goal is where possible to find these veterans, keep them out of the judicial system, out of the corrections process, if that's at all possible, for minor offenses.
Based on testimony before the committee, it appears that many of the veterans who have found themselves in trouble also are suffering from substance use disorders. How common is addiction driving that encounter with the criminal justice system?
Well, yes, I can't say exactly what that number is, but this isn't just for, it's for minor crimes. It's not for serious crimes. So there could be other things they get involved in that are not necessarily addiction, drug related, but a good amount of those will be. I've talked to law enforcement and others over the year in my own experience in working different places. The vast majority of problems through the ER and with police officers is usually drug related, alcohol, and other illegal drugs. So I guess the prevalence would be about the same for military personnel, veterans.
One testifier pointed out that the Hells Angels motorcycle gang was founded by disaffected World War II veterans, and he said that this program is essential because it prevents the radicalization of veterans. Another testifier spoke of being a leader when he was in the service and then coming back to the States as a civilian and struggling to find work. Does society need to do a better job accepting the accomplishments and experiences of service members in helping them find valuable work when they return to civilian society?
I believe that, service, I was in the military, 2 different branches, 2 different times, and most come out doing fine, and they're able to find employment. And a lot of veterans, in the years I've served on different committees, subcommittees, and organizations, that sometimes it's hard to find military vets to fill these programs because most vets are doing well, but that doesn't mean that there aren't a number that we should help. It's a voluntary system. You volunteer to go in. You know what you're getting into, but sometimes things out of your control. You come out and it didn't work out for you so well. So there are a number of them that have that problem. So to that extent, I believe we should do what we can for any citizen to help them out through these rough patches, whether it's veterans or not. It just so happens to be an area that has not been addressed directly. So as far as the Restorative Act, we're focusing on that. As far as getting jobs for people, wherever we can help get people jobs, that's important. Again, this county service veterans officers help with that process too. So most come out fine, but there are a number that still need help, and we should do what we can for them or any citizen that are struggling for reasons beyond their control.
Now, as you know, this measure passed the Senate 3 times during special sessions in August and September and October. This bill passed in the House back in 2019. So there's still something that continues to stymie process on this bill. Representative Marion O'Neill, a Republican of Maple Lake, issued a statement in November that said she believes more work is still needed on this bill because it doesn't require successful treatment of programs. And she raised concerns about victims, I think, in cases of domestic violence. Does more work need to be done on this bill?
There are some fixes we're going to address in the Judiciary Committee, some amendments and some fixes. But I love Representative O'Neill, a friend, colleague, of course, but I had a conversation with her and I simply disagree with that statement. First, the program does not, you cannot get in the program if you are charged with a violent crime. Secondly, the program does require, if you do get in it, the program is strict and it does require you fulfill all the obligations of the program. And if you do not fulfill those obligations, then you're back into the regular judicial process. So 2 points again, you can't get in it if you've committed certain violent crimes. Secondly, you are required, if you are in it, to finish all the steps. If you don't, you're back into the system. As far as victims are concerned, the victim services are there, whether you're a victim of a veteran in this process or a victim of any other criminal, you have those services. So I will talk to her some more, see what the problems are. But the House, I'll say this: the House could have passed that bill. They just they should have passed it. They could have passed it. They had the majority, and they didn't do it. Nonetheless, we're confident it's going to pass. We're confident we're going to work out the problems. We're confident that people will be protected adequately, and that the program will work for a number of veterans that don't need to be in the system. And these, again, are not serious physical violent crimes that are going to be addressed. They will not be allowed in.
Senator Roger Chamberlain, we're going to leave it there. I want to thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Good to see you. We'll be back in studio soon.
In the short period of time the legislature has been in session, the newly elected senator from Duluth has been a vocal proponent of measures to protect the environment. I spoke with Senator Jennifer McEwen as part of our ongoing series of conversations with new members. You became the DFL-endorsed candidate by challenging incumbent DFLer Erik Simonsen in the primary and winning. You went on to easily win the November election. What drew you into politics and to run for the Senate specifically?
Well, thank you for that question, and thank you very much for having me today. It's a pleasure to join you and to talk about being in the Senate and about the election, and I'm very pleased to join you, so thanks for having me. So yes, I decided to jump in and I guess I have always been a very political person. I was raised in a very political family. My parents were both active in their unions and proud DFLers, so we talked politics at home, and I was really raised with that ethic. But in recent years, like many people, I really began to feel a sense with the election of Donald Trump that there's a real urgency around a lot of critical issues, really basic bread and butter issues in our country, and was tired of the incrementalism that I think the Democratic Party and our state DFL party often become engaged in when we have these really critical issues around healthcare, around housing, around wealth disparity, where we have people barely getting by, and then we're sort of tweaking around the edges and maintaining the status quo. So that, in addition to some key extractive industry issues that are very important to the constituency in my district in Duluth, really propelled me to decide to step in and to try to represent the voice of my neighbors and my community in Duluth, who were asking for some bolder action and some more principled, ethical politics.
Well, and I have questions about two of those things that you just mentioned. You are on the Transportation Committee and also on the Natural Resources Policy Committee, both of which just recently debated California's clean car emission standards and whether Minnesota should adopt those. You said Minnesota should have moved in this direction a long time ago. In the DFL introduction of new members, you said that there's real urgency for you around climate change. So what more should the state be doing to combat the changing climate?
Thank you for this question. Yes, this is the issue of our times. It truly is. We are facing an existential crisis worldwide that in the next decades is truly set to come home to roost for us throughout the world, but in Minnesota as well. So there's a number of steps that we need to be taking actively to transition our economy to a clean energy economy. And so that means our energy sectors have to switch over as expeditiously as is possible. And we do that by leading with living wage, good family supporting union jobs. So there's something called the Blue-Green Alliance that is doing excellent work in this regard, where we can address wealth inequality, which is also a huge, huge fundamental problem in our society, and also tackle the climate crisis. So we transition our energy to clean energy 100% as soon as possible. We cannot wait until 2050. That will be too late. And really, it's been my entire lifetime that scientists have been telling us that we need to make these changes, but yet our economic system and our political system are so entrenched in favor of serving an elite economic class that it really has been like pulling teeth to try to get action in this regard. And now we're at a point where it's do or die. We have to make these really tough decisions in the next 10 years. But I believe that with everyone on board pulling together, we can actually make this transition in a way that will really truly foster an economic renaissance of sorts for not only northern Minnesota and northeastern Minnesota, where I am from, but throughout the country. And it will really put us in a better spot than we were at before we entered the pandemic and we entered into this critical stage of the climate crisis.
You mentioned extractive industries. You're also talking about good jobs. In your district, the history is inextricably entwined with geography and the resources of your region. You are the author of a bill that would require proposed mining operations demonstrate a period of a functioning mine elsewhere that did zero damage to the environment. There's this eternal debate over jobs and the environment. So how do you reconcile those two things?
Well, I'm going to correct you on one thing with your question. So the legislation, the Prove It First legislation, applies to copper nickel mining. So it does not apply to all mining. This is not an anti-mining bill in any regard. And really what I and other people in Duluth, in District 7 in Duluth, have been grappling with for some decades now is this sort of false dichotomy that has been set up, that this jobs versus the environment. And I think that the success of my campaign, both in the primary, where we won with about 74% of the vote, and then on into the general election, was really that the constituency is tired of this false dichotomy. We don't have to choose between the environment and good paying jobs. And in fact, if we act now in a very proactive way, and go on the offensive with the climate crisis and transitioning our economy to a clean energy economy, that will actually produce jobs. One of the things, you hear the sort of right wing use the Green New Deal as an attack piece. That's a jobs program. That's a jobs program that will create thousands of jobs throughout the United States. So we have to really listen carefully with a critical ear toward those kind of right-wing talking pieces that would split us and try to divide and conquer. The environment and good family sustaining jobs, sustainable jobs into the future are intimately intertwined. They go hand in hand. And so what I will be working toward is bringing us out of that old mentality that our entire economy has to be based on extractive industry, that our entire economy has to be based on the old traditional extractive industry of mining, of pipelines, of clear cuts, of unsustainable environmental practices. We have to do better than that. We're going to do better than that, and it will bring more jobs.
I have one more question for you, and if you can be succinct, that would be great. But you did write on several areas of your campaign website that it is a priority for you to bring home dollars for infrastructure needs like streets, water, and city services, thereby not overburdening property taxpayers. How badly is Duluth in need of infrastructure support?
Pretty badly, like many other places in Minnesota and throughout the United States. I mean, this has been a problem again for decades. It's going back to these basics. We have neglected our basic infrastructure, our water infrastructure, our sewer infrastructure, our transportation infrastructure, our bridges, our roads. There's so much fundamental work to be done because we have not made those robust public investments that we need to be making. And so it is in my belief that it is the basic job of a representative, a senator, a legislator, to make sure that we use our state resources for those basic needs of infrastructure that our municipalities have, so that they can hold the line on property taxes. Because the property tax is actually a very regressive tax, and it really hits people who are on fixed incomes the hardest. So what we need to do is use the revenue sources that the state can use, which are much more equitable, much more based on income and wealth, and then take care of those basic needs from that fund.
Senator Jennifer McEwen, I want to thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Join us again next week as we delve into more topics affecting Minnesotans. I'm Shannon Loehrke, and on behalf of all of us at Senate Media Services, thanks for watching.